That's it. Really nice move. Blake Delaney had to move out of the way.
Good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome once again to SRWTV. Tonight, it's round 9, our finale for the F3 Series Season 2 for 2023, and we are at Virginia International Raceway tonight, and it's all thanks to our series sponsor, TOYOSIM. It will take all of the drivers' concentration to produce a fast lap around here tonight, and staying out of the walls and off the grass will be a top priority. It's Cowie Average Sim Racer here, together with Hamish Munro on comms and behind the scenes once again, buddy. Should be an awesome finale to what's been a really great season, and looking forward to it, buddy, because this is an awesome track, and I think these cars, it's going to be even better.
Oh, it's a fantastic track, Cowie. Really suits these F3 cars quite well. So just to give everyone a little bit of inside baseball just for a second here, we are off a replay file here tonight, so it means we won't be able to have replays as such, but I will try and keep on top of it as well as possible to get as much of the action as I can on screen for all the viewers at home. So VIR tonight, an hour-long race, 15 minutes of quali. It's going to be an intense one for them for sure, going from go to stop all throughout race proceedings. It's the end of the championship, round 9 VIR. And I mean, what a championship we've had, and how close is it in the end here? I mean, Daniel Byrne, Scott Bartijn, and Robbie Griffiths, they're all in the hunt at the moment for this F3 championship.
Well, it's going to be a belter. It's a great track to finish on. It's going to test all of these guys. We've got the track information up there for you at the moment. It's 26 degrees out there on track, 55% humidity, partly cloudy with not a great deal of wind there, but it will test these drivers. And as you said, yeah, look, it's the finale, so a 60-minute race, enduro points on offer. So, looks, I think Daniel Byrne's pretty much got the season wrapped up and the title in his hands. I think only a DNF would see him fall from the top step, but it's going to be close between Scott Bartijn and Robbie Griffiths. So the Area 51 Sim Sports Machine and Fishy Motorsports Machines are going to be hot at it tonight, and we've seen those guys battling previous rounds, buddy. It's going to be awesome.
Well, I mean, it's all in Daniel's hands right now. If he wants to win this championship, he just needs to finish the race. He needs at least 65 points to lock this out. And with the amount of drivers we have in here tonight, 15 drivers out on track, he should very well be able to do that if he can finish the race. So, barring a DNF, we should be crowning him the champion at the end of tonight's proceedings. So, but it is still a close run for P2 at the moment. It's also a close run for the AM Championship right now, Cowie. Hotly contested between Griffiths and Hudson. There's only about 10 more points. There's only about 10 or I think you were saying maybe 19 points in it between those two guys for P1 and the amateurs. But Griffiths and Bartijn battling at the moment for P2 in the championship. It's all still to play for, and anything can happen in these little F3s because, as we know, they're made up of paper mache at the end of the day. So
they break if you look at them bad, buddy. Well, qualifying should be starting any time now. We can get to see these guys out on track and see if they can put a big lap down.
Well, so we are getting into the start of qualifying. Danny Matisic is one of the first drivers to get out on track, as well as Scott Bartijn, as previously mentioned. Jay Dixon is back in the field tonight here, Cowie, so he'll be hoping to ruffle some feathers and maybe shake up the points a little bit. We know he's got some good pace about him. He hasn't been in here in a couple of races, so it'll be good to see what he can bring to the table against the likes of Scott Bartijn and Daniel Byrne, who are now a seasoned veteran of this race series.
I think Jay will be here just to enjoy the race tonight. He is quite quick. Both him and his teammate from Downforce Racing have been, right at the front of the pack every time that they race. Unfortunately, Jay sort of missed a few weeks for work, but, real life does tend to get into the way of a simulation sometimes, even though they say that real life might even be a simulation, start to talk astrophysics here.
Maybe I might be getting a little bit too conspiratorial there, Cowie. But regardless, I think it's I mean the inclusion of Jay tonight is an interesting one, and it's a very interesting sort of like whether he will just let the other guys battle it out, or whether he's going to get right into the meat and potatoes and just dig into some absolutely fantastic F3 battling throughout the whole field. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of pace he has after not being in this car for a little bit. And, you know, as mentioned, Daniel Byrne, Scott Bartijn, even Robbie Griffiths, these guys have been here all season, and they are well accustomed to how this car drives and how much pace they can get out of it. So it's going to be a very interesting prospect for sure to see what can happen across this hour-long race that we have coming for everyone tonight.
Well, it's one of the things too, though, you know, Jay might have realised weeks ago that this was the only race he could make, so he's actually spent a month practicing it. You know, so it's possible. No. He's been away from work, so I'm not sure how much practice he's been able to put in, but he has shown time and time again that he's fast and put it right up at the pointy end. But yeah, you're right, it's going to be interesting to see how the contenders deal with Jay in there. Do they battle hard with him, or do they decide, no, let's just let him go and maybe try and sit in his toe and play the safe game? You've got that extra car in the mix there that maybe takes some points away from people. But those drop rounds coming into play, it's, yeah, look, as I think it's Daniel Byrne's to lose. And as long as he can keep the car clean, he should take out this championship for season 2.
Well, I think the only problem with if they just let Jay Dixon go is if Griffiths and Bartijn want to win the championship, they need to win the race. Like, they actually just have to win outright and hope that Daniel DNFs. Another one.
The most points, that's right.
Yeah,
need the most amount of point divide to take advantage of that.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing that we were talking about before the broadcast was Griffiths, to win this championship, needs to beat Scott Bartijn by 4 spots. So if he wins the race, because he has to win the race to win the championship, Scott must finish 4th or above to win the championship, 5th or below for Robbie to win the championship, and Daniel Byrne must DNF. That's the story of tonight. If Daniel DNFs, he'll lose the championship if either of those guys win the race. So he just needs to concentrate on keeping it clean and just getting the car home. He doesn't need a positive position tonight. He could just roll around at the back all night and then cross the line in 15th. He will still win the championship. So it proves...
Somehow I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
We've seen Daniel Byrne's pace week after week.
Yeah.
And I'm sure his philosophy will be, let me qualify in P1. Let me hopefully find another kitten that can qualify P2 or 3, and we'll get them to hold everyone up, and I can just drive off into the sunset.
Yeah. So
that might probably be the team play for the Kittens boys tonight.
Most likely, but we can only have our own little conspiracies about what his game plan might be, whether he just wants to hang out back. But that's the kind of position that he's put himself in. He's been that dominant and has won that many races this season, or at least finished on the podium on that many races this season, that he only needs to finish tonight to win the championship. He doesn't need to have a very good position to win it all. So he's in the greatest position out of anyone, and in the greatest position out of anyone I've ever seen when calling sim racing over the past 2 seasons. So I haven't seen anyone in a stronger position to win a championship until now. So it's going to be very, very interesting, and one that I'm looking forward to seeing play out.
If you'd follow the Sunday night V8s, you know, Jamie Dykes normally got the season wrapped up with about 3 races to go. The guy's that quick. But, yeah, look, it is still close. And, of course, you know, I think Jay Dixon would have been definitely in the hunt. I think was leading the championship when he had to go away from work. Now, we did talk about tonight's race as a 60-minute race.
That's right. So 60 minutes tonight around this VIR circuit. It's going to be a very long one. These drivers are going to get about, I believe, 12 laps of fuel, I think they were saying, for a full tank.
I think initially we did plan for this to be a sprint round finale, but iRacing Maintenance decided to, you know, play ball and scupper that.
Yeah.
Because I was just reading through here. So fuel restriction for these guys, 39%.
Yeah.
I don't think that was changed. Yet weather and fuel same as original, they have said. So that may, mean a couple of stops. I think as far as when I was talking to the boys before the race actually started, fuel was not going to be an option for the shorter race. You're going to need one stop for the 40-minute race. Does that mean we're going to need two for a 60?
So the data that I've got here saying that fuel tank is 12 laps for the fuel that they have for a full tank. The race length, without any safety cars, we should see about 35 laps tonight. So it's going to be, and it's going to be very close, but it's going to be about 2 stops.
Well, that means it's also going to be 2 stops at the edge of your fuel window.
That's right.
You can only really afford to do 11 laps and pit in one of those stints and maybe still make it home.
Yeah.
If there's no safety car. So this is going to mean these guys are going to be running the tanks dry. So it's going to be fairly even out there. It's all going to be, maybe if people can, do a bit of a save and get an extra lap and see where that puts them. Now, of course, this qualifying session, we're about halfway through now. So far, it is Robbie Griffiths on the top of the tree with a 1:39.99, the only man into the 1:39s at the moment. He has about a 4/10 gap over Scott Bartijn, who is a couple of tenths ahead of Jay Dixon in P3. So, the times are close.
Interestingly,
Oh, hang on, no, the interval from Scott back to Jay is 400ths. There you go.
Yeah.
So I was thinking again, we're used to seeing these guys separated by only a couple of hundredths. When we start talking tenths, I thought we were watching a different race.
Well, interestingly enough, Daniel Byrne's back in P7 at the moment, so whether he hasn't actually taken the time to practice as much with this track and really get the pace up this week, or maybe he's just struggling, he might be a little bit of a blessing in disguise if he can't actually have the pace to really run with the big boys tonight. Because
I don't know if I'd want to qualify mid-pack though.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to
finish.
Yeah. So I think if he's got a lack of pace at the moment, or just a lack of track acclimatization, it's going to be very interesting in terms of what can happen, and if he gets caught up in somebody else's moment. Now, this track, there's only a small portion of it where there are walls very, very close to the actual track surface. The majority of it is basically paddocks left and right of you. And if you run off the grass, it's like icy. You're just going to get dragged out further and further away from the tarmac. It's going to take you even longer to get back onto the track. So if he's going to have a moment...
Is out there as well, though. Once you get
Yeah.
onto the grass, there's very little traction.
Yep.
Like this section here, it is very easy to drop a wheel on the inside grass, spin it, and throw it into those tyres.
Yeah.
And that'd be the end of your night, or at least a tow and a fast repair and a lap down it would put you.
Yeah. So he needs to be very careful where he comes off, because he doesn't want to end up in the wall, but he also doesn't want to end up, 100 metres off the track either.
No, that's right. And coming up into, this is another one of those sections where it's really easy to run deep as you head down the back straight here and coming up to the roller coaster section. It's very easy to outbrake yourself, and this is the one you're talking about. If you get this wrong, this braking zone up here, you could just be a passenger across the grass, and there's a lot of it out there. And if you do even manage to keep it out of the out of the tyres, it's going to take forever for you to, get it back. Look at all that grass out there, buddy.
I remember when we went racing here earlier in the season for the TCRs, I mean, just some of the absolute, you come down the hill and you just drop a tyre and you're in the grass. And I remember a couple of drivers just getting caught out at that corner every single time, or at least it seemed like every single time that they were coming up to it, they were ending up in the grass again. Now, Robbie Griffiths in provisional pole position at the moment. He's very, very strong around here.
I think Daniel Byrne he looks like he's still struggling a little bit with that setup. Jay Dixon had a couple of purple sectors in there, but still hasn't improved his time. Oh, it is Robbie Griffiths with a 39.59, so he's found another further 3 or 4 tenths on the field, and he's got that gap almost out to 6 tenths. And then we start to talk about hundredths. Darren Fahey, P2, 5 hundredths behind him, Jay Dixon, with a into the thousandths between Jay Dixon and Scott Bartijn.
Yeah, I mean, there's absolutely nothing in it. You know, Robbie at the moment, he's got a good little gap over Fahey in P2. Robbie is very, very strong around here. Now, I know because he actually ended up winning the Vets Championship, and it was at this track that he confirmed it, but he actually didn't need a really hot shot performance the night that he won, because he actually only needed to finish in like the bottom half of the field. He was in a very similar situation actually to Daniel Byrne, but it was also based on where his opponents finished as well in such a big field. But he's very strong around this track, and he's proving it in these F3s that he has got the pace and he's got the right setup, acclimatization to feel comfortable around here, and to be able to pump out laps like that is absolutely extraordinary, and he is putting a claim on this championship tonight.
Well, it is certainly going to make for some exciting action. These guys, this track, it is such a cracker of a track. You know, it actually rose from the dead, this place. I think the inaugural win was by Carroll Shelby back in the 60s. But the track was closed in the 70s because they ran into financial difficulty, and then was bought in the 90s and revamped. And look at this place, and even now iRacing with the recent upgrade and package, you see there that at the big hairpin at the end of the start of the back straight, there used to be a tree that overhanged the track there, and I remember that tree in iRacing quite a bit, racing around here. But looks like there's a penalty that's just come out there as well, buddy. Didn't catch what driver that was. Was told he's going to rear a grid for an unsafe rejoin.
I think it might have been Nathan Verney. It does say he's just come back on track. But it may have even been Jay Dixon, although he's only just come back on track. So I'd say maybe it is Nathan.
Right.
But we will know as soon as the session ends where people will be starting, who will be getting those penalties, and who will end up where. So it's going to be a big...
We've only got about a minute and a half to go yet, buddy. So Adrian Loretti's put a belter time up there. He's done a 140.14, and is that right? No.
Yeah. So he's currently done.
No, he's still P5. Sorry. Yeah, he's showing P5 at the moment.
Yep. The time he has done right now is a 40.39. So still a very respectable time. He's got a good little gap over Jason Chin in P6, who did a 140.78. Interestingly enough, Griffiths, I think he's pretty much just confirmed that, well, he's not going to be doing another lap once he towed back. But he's the only driver in the 39s at the moment, and I think he might be a bit confident that no one else is going to be able to hit the 39s in the remainder of this session.
Well, Adrian Loretti with some green and one purple sector in there. He's coming around to finish his lap.
Oh, super close.
That's a 140.05. Does propel him up into P2. So that's a great lap from Adrian Loretti.
Still a fair way off Robbie Griffiths, though, but that does put him in P2.
Yeah. Well, Scott Barton here. Is that no? We're watching.
That's Daniel Byrne at the moment. He's currently on
Byrne at the moment.
sectors.
Well, he's got a couple of green sectors there. Maybe starting to come to grips. This is a fixed setup series, so all of these guys have got the same machinery and hardware to work with. And, you know, it does mean sometimes you find setups that suit you, more than another driver, and then vice versa as well. And I think, again, this is just such a great track, and the level of commitment to drive an F3 around here on the limit, it takes some skill. And as you said, Daniel, well, all he needs to do is finish. So perhaps just practicing those safe lines at the moment. He's just gone over the line with a 140.69, so he will remain in P6 at the moment.
Darren Fahey has given up on his lap as well. He's pulled off onto the side of the circuit. I think Dean Singovich is out there at the moment. He will only be able to complete one lap. Of course,
as usual, Dean joining right at the end and making sure at least he gets one sight to lap in.
So it'll be interesting to see how he goes tonight. Whether he's had much practice or not will be still to be seen. But getting into the session right at the end, out for one lap, obviously he's improved his lap across all sectors, so will be interesting to see what kind of time he can set. Interestingly enough, Kevin Wakefield, Keegan Caldwell, Tyson McAvoy, none of them set a lap time in qualifying. Dean crosses the line. What time does he do?
All right. Well, Dean did a 150.09, so he is going to be the last of our timed runners in qualifying. But for Dean, that would have been more about a sighter. Do I remember this track? Yep, there. Okay, I did.
So we will bring up our qualifying results here tonight for everyone. So Griffiths takes out pole position ahead of Adrian Loretti, Darren Fahey, Scott Barton, Jay Dixon, Daniel Byrne, Jason Chin, Brad Hudson, Danny Matisic, Nathan Verney, Stephen Singovich, Dean Singovich, and then Tyson McAvoy, Kevin Wakefield, and Keegan Caldwell all not setting a lap time during qualifying. It'll be interesting to see if they actually get out on track to do the race. But apart from that, all we have to wait for, Cowie, is for these drivers to grid up and get ready to go racing for one more time in Season 2.
It, buddy, 60 minutes tonight. 2 pit stops, we reckon. Will the safety car put in an appearance? I'm thinking he's only going to come out once tonight, buddy. What's your call on the safety car appearance?
I do not think we're going to get a safety car.
Right, 0. Okay, There we go.
Yeah.
So the promo department safety car may not get a look at tonight at all, according to Mr. Hamish Munro. We will have to see who can take that final, sheep station bet out for the season.
I don't think VIR doesn't really lend itself very well to safety cars because of the amount of runoff. And being that it's the final round as well, there might just be people who just ask, "Oh, can I just tell them, and can we just not have a safety car?" So, but yeah,
Confident that at least one of the Spinovics is going to break his car. So,
I don't doubt that, but I just don't know. I don't know if they can do it in a way where you'd actually need a safety car, but we'll see.
well, you break a car around here. I mean, it is an F3. They are paper mache origami machines, so you can break them. And the promo department safety car, we get those colours out on track and bunch everyone back up. But we'll have to see how things go. It is an hour-long race. Cars starting to grid up now. This is our finale for tonight's F3 season. If you are keen to join and jump in the action, we do have registration for the next season open at the moment, due to start. Was it start of July? The first season starts.
Yeah, so it's
Season 3?
It's not. I believe it's the first week of July. No, it's the last week of June. No, there's a parallel race the last week of June.
That's right.
And then the week after, I believe, is round 1 for season 3. I believe is what it is.
Well, we've got 15 cars gridding up for tonight's race. We have seen races at the start of this season up well over 20. In the season before, we had over 30 drivers out there. I know quite a couple of the teams were unable to sort of commit this season, but are keen to come back. So hopefully we'll see a few of those boys soon. But this has been a finale where Robbie Griffiths has come in for Fishy Motorsports and ruffled the feathers straight away. And here they go, the lights on. Oh, someone's jumped the start there. That's Scott Barton that's jumped the start there.
That was Scott Barton. That was an intense jump start for him there. Not what you want at the start of a race, especially
when you're in contention.
Oh no! Especially with so much on the line.
Oh, trying to go too wide back there. That's Jay Dixon and Darren Fahey with a battle there mid-pack. Right in the middle of a bunch of kittens there, Jay.
He's got Fahey ahead, Byrne in behind. So this is going to be an intense hour of racing for these F3 drivers. As mentioned, Jay Dixon, he's out of contention, but he is as fast as the front runners, so it'll be interesting to see what he can bring. Look at Fahey, though, bringing the pressure onto the back of Barton now as he's dropped a heap of spots off the start.
We're going to have to see if Scotty pulls in immediately, if he's got that black flag. Tyson McAvoy with a decent start as well there. I think he's jumped up a few positions starting at the rear of the grid, not qualifying. Oh, he's up a couple of spots.
Currently up 6 positions in this race is Tyson, so he's had a good start here.
Something's happened to Brad Hudson too, because he is right at the back of the pack and like 30 seconds down. So that's a broken car.
That is a real broken car.
Unfortunately, we can't look at the replay to see what's happened to that there, but looks like he's going to be able to make it back. So we don't have a promo department visit just yet from the safety car, but that car does not look healthy at all.
So
Robbie Griffiths
starts the next lap.
A 2-second lead already after lap 1, so yeah, look, Scott's having to serve that drive-through penalty for jumping the start, so that is horrible news for our, currently P2 in the championship, and the guy he's battling is currently leading this motor race with a 2.3 second lead.
So it's now up to Daniel Byrne whether he DNFs or not. If he DNFs, Robbie Griffiths will be the champion as things stand. If he finishes the race, then Daniel Byrne has it in the bag. But you can see the gap in behind that he's already got over Loretti, Fahey, Dixon and Byrne in behind. He's really just put the jets on that Fishy Motorsports little Piranha F3 car, Cowie, and he is pushing like no one else just to build that gap.
We've seen before that Adrian tends to be maybe a little bit more cautious on cold tyres early on. And you can see here Darren Fahey getting a nice little slingshot of his teammate. So we'll have to see if Adrian lets him through or if Darren just sits in behind. So these guys could be battling because they do love to race out there. But Darren's got that done and Adrian's just let him through nicely. So I think we may well see a bit of kitten shenanigans going on here. And we'll see if Adrian decides to see if he can leave Jay high and dry and give Daniel a free pass through here. So this could be quite interesting to watch here, buddy.
We can see Jay now trying outside.
This is where it's at. So Adrian can just break deep here, which is what he's done.
Trying to get the switch back.
Yeah, okay, so I think, Adrian was just making sure Jay didn't try to outbrake him, and again, he could have just left him hung dry there, and Jay was too smart for that. He broke a bit earlier and tucked in and tried to get him on exit. So, yeah, good bit of shenanigans going on amongst the boys here, buddy, and tactics already at play in this hour-long race.
Jason Chin currently running around in the other Piranha out there. He's just kind of rotating them. I mean, he is up a spot, though, up into P6 right now. Nathan Verney has also gained 3 spots in this race for Locked On Racing as well. And you can see Tyson McAvoy in a heated battle right now with Dean Sinkovich for P8 at the moment of this motor race.
All right, well, Bradley Hudson has got going again, but he's a lap down now. Danny Matisic. Is Danny a lap down? He's pretty close, so something's happened to Danny as well. Perhaps he got caught up with Brad Hudson there as well, but that car does look fixed. He has pitted, yeah. Look, I'd say Steven Sinkovic's pitted, Scott Barton's pitted, Danny Matisic and Bradley Hudson all pitting. So these guys have all had to use up that fast repair really, really early in this motor race.
I think Steven might have actually started from the pits, maybe. Although it is saying he actually had a pit stop time of 22 seconds and a pit lane travel time of 32 seconds. So yeah, and it's pit lap 0. So he's actually started from the pits, I think.
He started from the pits, whereas the other guys have come in.
Yeah.
Scott Barton, I think, may have forgotten to turn off tyres when he came in as well, because he's got a 34-second stop compared to Danny's 5 and Brad's 4. No, Scott drove through. There wouldn't have been a pit lane time there. Okay. SDK telling me lies.
Yeah, I don't know why it's telling me he's had a pit stop when he's just driven through.
Well, it still just registers the pit entry, I think, so that's why it's counting that as a stop. Okay. But yeah, he had that drive through to come through. So to see how he plays it here, does he try to push hard and gain that time up. I mean, he's got about 20 seconds to catch Steven Sinkovic in P10. So, does he push super hard, or does he try to run long and see if he can get a couple extra laps?
Oh, Stephen
Or
just making a
Steven
mistake.
going in a bit hot there, but good recovery.
I think Scott can rely that Stephen will probably make a mistake like that at some point, and it will just give him the time back eventually. But he needs to try and get any advantage that he can now over the guys ahead of him, because he's now had what is really considered an extra stop, because he's had an extra travel down the lane. So
He needs a safety car. He's about a minute behind these guys, and you know, if the race continues on, like, he's got space at the moment, but and Dean now deciding to mow the grass there, and it is something we're going to see probably a fair bit tonight as the guys push the limits there, coming up into the roller coaster. But yeah, look, not an easy car to drive, especially when it gets floaty into that braking zone there. So we're gonna see a few people make mistakes, but does Scott push hard, or does he just circle out there, keep the car alive, and hope for a safety car?
I think it's going to come down to how comfortable he is in the car and with the setup. If he's really, really comfortable, then I think he has nothing to lose by pushing. He has more to lose by sitting back and waiting, because you can't guarantee there's going to be a safety car. At least if he pushes and he closes a bit of a gap, well, then that's going to be a bit more beneficial for him. He's going to have to take 2 stops regardless to make the end of this race. So it's going to be a real toss-up of what he wants to do. But I think he's just going to have to push now and try and get to lap 12 or lap 13. No, it'll be lap 12 now, because he only had a drive-through to get in on that first stop right at the end of the tank, because he can't afford to come in early unless he wants to commit to a 3-stop strategy if he comes in on lap 10.
Yeah, look, I think if you try to avoid going a lap down, but it is one of those things too that, you know, when you can let stuff like that, you know, weigh on your brain, and it can wreck your focus, and the moment you're not sort of concentrating, that's when you will make a even bigger mistake, and you know, we don't want to see that. So I think you're right. You know, you've got to push, maybe not right on the limit, but you've got to drive the car, you know, fairly hard, stay concentrated, because you know, you've got to give yourself something to drive for, and that way at least you keep your A game on track working.
I just saw a little lock up there from Adrian Loretti into turn 1. I mean, I've seen a couple of these drivers really struggle with the bias, so I have to wonder if maybe they're setting
a change there, because Jay Dixon's got past him there.
He has.
So we missed that, and you know, Darren Fahey's showing some good pace, but Jay has made that pass, and Adrian is now, you know, has got Darren in his sights ahead of him.
Well, he's going to have to tackle 3 different kittens, or at least battle with them, to try and stay within the clutches of Robbie Griffiths ahead of him here. He's got to get through the kittens to get to the piranha, and he's having to pick them off one by one at the moment. Darren Fahey is up into P2 right now, so he's at a good start. It does mean, though, that Adrian Loretti, his teammate, has now dropped 2 spots, but all 4 of these guys have got about the same pace. And again, I mean, we saw some of the drivers locking up. I have to wonder if they're setting and forgetting their brake bias around this track in these cars, where it's actually a little bit more beneficial for you to actually run different brake biases around the whole lap, because of how these cars react to certain conditions and certain types of corners. I think they probably are most likely just going for set and forget. I would as well, but it would be more beneficial for them to change it.
I mean, you make those basic changes. Look, you know, yeah, it is that sort of secret ingredient that you need to do to sort of push that extra level. You know, adjusting your brake bias as you go through, working out what, you know, for each corners has a lot to do with trying to get the rear of the car to rotate. So you might run a bit more rear bias at a corner where you need the car just to step out a little bit for you. But one thing you will see these guys do is move that brake bias forward as weight comes out of the rear of the car, because that's when that rear of the car's getting lighter, and the rear brakes will lock much easier.
Yeah, which is, and that's the same with like supercar as well, or even GT cars, because Once the rear of the car is getting lighter, it's harder to get it turned around, as I believe Steve Sinkovich has actually had an incident. I might just double check to see what's happened to him. He has.
Looks like just a spin, but he has, and that's coming down into the roller coaster.
And you can see this is a perfect example of the green ice that this grass is. He struggled to get it back onto the tarmac, just based on how slippery and little grip there is. Robbie Griffiths has had a moment as well. He's gone off track, so he's actually dropped a couple of spots. Sorry that we've missed that.
Like, yeah, I'd say that's a grass excursion as well, because that car looks pretty clean and pristine. So he's had a grassy moment there. Yeah, it did came up back on track. So look, it looks like that has cost him position and track position, and he was leading this motor race, and now puts him about 6 or 7 seconds down from the race leader now. So Darren Fahey inheriting the lead, and Jay Dixon find himself P2.
So Jay could, I mean, if Darren makes a mistake, Jay could see himself Bradbury his way onto the top step of the podium. Not that he's not without pace, but just kind of he's sitting back, he's keeping himself cool, calm, and collected, and just trying to hold off Loretti in behind. But we could be in for, I mean, if the leader of the race, who was a couple of seconds ahead of P2, can make a mistake like that, or 3 seconds ahead, then anyone throughout the field can make a mistake like that. Any new leader. So we could be in for chopping and changing of the order, seeing who finishes where, and at the end of the race, we might have something that is just not even in the realm of what we imagined. Hell, we might even see a Sinkovich win. I highly doubt it, but we might see a Sinkovich win.
Well, one of them's already a lap down, so I don't know if it's going to be Stephen's night tonight. But I actually was going to go back to something you said there that was interesting, where you talked about the Bradbury moment, and then you backed it up by saying, but we know that he's quick. Well, this is the thing that people don't give Stephen Bradbury credit for, is he made an Olympic final. Like, you've got to be quick to make an Olympic final.
The thing is, though, he made that gold medal final by Bradburying his way to victory, and then Bradburying his way to the gold medal as well. So he did it twice in a row to get the gold.
Yeah, you got to be quick. You got to be, in the mix to be able to do that, to make those fields. So, so I think very similar to your comment about Jay, is that you've still got to have pace to be in the mix.
Oh yeah.
But if you haven't got pace, you're not in the mix. Well, big lock up there from Jay. I saw Adrian was closing in on him, and Jay's put the hammer down and pulled that gap out to over a second. But that brake lock there is going to bunch him right back up again. Robbie Griffiths has fallen even further behind there. So I think Robbie's had another moment because Nathan Byrne had got past him, and then Nathan Byrne's had a moment and gone off track. So Robbie Griffiths was only about 6 seconds behind the leaders. He's now like 25 seconds behind the leaders. So these guys pushing hard. And again, I will put it down to a characteristic of driving these sort of cars. You push hard, you're trying to find the limit, and you think you found it. But what happens is the car induces confidence, because you go in a bit harder through a section and the car sticks because you've got downforce. So you go, oh, that was great, so I'm going to push a little bit harder in the next part. And eventually what happens is that push harder becomes push too much and you make a mistake.
Well, another problem is as well, the grip level's always changing, because the tyre life is changing and the fuel level's changing and the track conditions are changing as well. So your grip level is not always, you don't always have the same grip limit, especially around the whole circuit. So it's about knowing the sort of the range of grip limit that you have on these cars, depending on the change of conditions, on the change of tyre wear, and on the change of fuel. So
it comes down to feel. Driving these things comes down to feel, and what happens. You see it time and time again. I've seen it myself when the car sticks. You fly through a corner and you think you've outbroken yourself, but you turn in and the car just sticks, and you're like, holy God, that's half a second there. Where'd that come from? Yeah. So you try and replicate it the next lap and you lose it. So, it's a fine line sometimes, and, it's the difference between, you know, these guys doing the low 1 minute 40 laps and the guys doing the 141s and 142s. That is that level of commitment. And as you said, buddy, you know, you need to be fast to run at the front of these fields. And when you're running fast and you're on the limit, the potential for a mistake, becomes more evident.
Well, we are now on to lap 10, so we should be within pit stop range. This will be the telltale sign if they're going to go for a 3-stop or a 2-stop in this race, assuming that we do make it to 35 laps within the hour. So if they come in on lap 10, it'll be a 3-stop. If they come in on lap 11, it'll be a 3-stop. Lap 12, at the end of the tank, gets you 2 stops. So it's going to be what these guys want to risk. Do they want to risk running out of fuel, or do they want to, not risk running out of fuel, but also then have to do a 3rd stop? That's going to be the real caveat question of what can happen. Lap 11, they can't do it. I was about to say they can do a 2-stop on lap 11, but they can't because they actually need to be able to gain 3 laps. So that's why you can't do it that way. So.
You probably afford to do 1 because, again, we're talking 11, 12 laps here, so we're talking at least a 2-stopper.
Yeah.
But I reckon they could possibly come in on lap 11 instead of lap 12, but the thing is you'd have to run along that next stint.
Yeah, you'd have to get to lap 23 and then you would literally be running out over the line on lap 35, so and it would be a lot of fuel saving needed.
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, we're seeing sort of those mid-pack runners in the 1-minute 41s and the fast guys doing 1-minute 40s. So I wonder if there is, Daniel Byrne, we're not normally used to talking about him being about a second off the pace. But as you said, all he needs to do is finish tonight. So I'm sure he's driving that little bit within himself. But still enough to keep yourself sharp out there because you can't relax too much. Bradley Hudson getting out of the way and letting everyone through. An unfortunate event for Bradley right at the start of this motor race. Unfortunately, we missed it, but he had to use up his fast repair right at the start of this race.
Tyson McAvoy has just come out of the pits from his stop. He has not taken tyres either. He's only taken fuel. So he seems to be either committing to a 3-stop or really testing the waters on if he could do 2 12-lap stints over the end of this race. That is what is going to come down to if he actually needs the 3rd stop or not, which is what we were just talking about. But Fahey is in as well. So he's also pulling the same strategy. Jay Dixon, I assume, is going to the end of lap 12 alongside Loretti and Byrne. So this is going to be a good comparison here, Cowie, of the 2 strategies that we've been talking about. Of if lap 12 is beneficial or if lap 11 is beneficial for your stop.
Well, I think it's, you can afford to maybe go in early and so, was that who pitted then? It was Darren Fahey out in front, so he's just maybe trying to cover any chance of an undercut. Now, these guys aren't taking tyres in the stops so far, though Darren Fahey, he is taking tyres, buddy. He's in the pits 50-odd seconds now.
Yeah.
So he's making an early call for tyres, or has forgot to turn them off. One of the two. But we've seen these guys start to struggle with tyres towards the end of a 40-minute race. Tonight's a 60-minute race. So we may actually see tyres finally become part of the equation here for the F3s at SRW.
Well, Fahey has taken a 45-second pit stop there. The info I was given was saying that it should be a 30-second pit stop time with full fuel and tyres. So he's taken an extra long stop there. I know what the problem was. Darren Fahey has been given a speeding in pit lane penalty.
Oh, no! Oh.
So Dixon and Loretti are in.
This is the curse of the lead of this motor race at the moment. We've seen Robbie Griffiths make a mistake and lose a bunch of spots. And now Darren Fahey coming into the pits a bit too hard and getting a 40-second stop and hold. So, yeah, look at that. 5-second stop with the 40, yeah, that'd be what it is. You're right. He wouldn't have taken tyres, he's just had to stop and hold. All right, well, Jay Dixon has retained track position over Adrian Loretti there through the pit stop cycle. and will find himself out in the lead of this motor race.
So Dixon
We
leads
are
the
23 minutes. Yeah, we are 23 minutes into tonight's finale for our F3 Season 2 here at SRWTV. Big thanks to TOYOSIM, our major sponsor for tonight's racing. Also, another big thanks to all of our sponsors out there: Fast Track Experiences, Racecraft, Sim Rigs, Grim Industries, Warren and Brown Tools, apologies, Melville Equipment Call, Dragon RC, and of course the promo department safety car as well.
So just to confirm, we are 23 minutes into the session, Cowie, 21 and a half minutes into the actual race.
That's right, they got that 2-minute warm-up.
Yeah.
That's right. We're always sitting on the grid.
Yeah.
Well, will be interesting because, you know, if you're not sure of the laps you need to get home, you base it on time. So if it's going to be a 2-stop of the night, you need to get to about that 20-minute window. But these guys have, you know, pitted at about that 20 minutes. Tyson went a lap earlier, so that'll be interesting to see if that if he will still be able to put the fuel on at the end to get this home if it does stay green. Because at the moment, it's the green grasses of home out there saving everyone, and no sign of the promo department safety car.
Yeah, as mentioned, I mean, that's kind of the reason why I said there would be zero, because you can get a heap of carnage around here, but not necessarily safety car worthy carnage, because the walls aren't really close enough apart from a couple of spots that can really cause those safety cars to come out. It's still a great track though for on-track action. Even seeing someone just fly off into the grass is quite exhilarating sometimes. But we could still see one. We definitely could. There are plenty of opportunities. I mean, this spot right here is one that can cause them for sure.
It's so easy to put a grass on the. It's probably a little bit easier now with the new scan of VIR here, because those curbs weren't nearly as pronounced the last time I raced here. But look, yeah, the field has spread out quite a bit. I'm not seeing sort of anyone in close battles at the moment, so this is that middle stage of the motor race where everyone just takes check, and Jay Dixon deciding to use a little bit of extra green track stuff there. Got away with it. I don't know if he'd be advised to continue that line through the next few laps.
No, I would say he wants to try and keep away from doing that. It's not really an advisable line for sure, but he leads the way at the moment. Bradley Hudson and Danny Matisic have just come into the pits. So Kevin Wakefield and Keegan Caldwell, neither of those guys got out on track tonight, unfortunately. We haven't seen Greg Barber in the promo department safety car just yet. But the current running of things is Steven Singovich back in P13.
Well, Steven's running out of fuel here. He's got an extra lap.
He's gone. Pit. Yeah, he has. So
he's forgot the pit.
He's very lucky that he's right there.
Yep, he's got it home.
He'll definitely be clutching in there on that one. So Steven Singovich only just makes it into the pits. Brad Hudson at the moment back in P12 after an incident on turn 4 and 5 on lap 1. Danny Matisic at the moment in P11, so he's doing a fine job right now. Scott Barton down in the order off the start. He had that jump start and then got the drive through. He did make his pit stop. He made it on lap 13, Cowie. So he was able to go an extra lap. So he must have saved some fuel, got the extra lap in, which now means that he can go 12 lap stint next, and then an 11th lap stint on the way home in the final portion of this race. So he's actually in quite a nice little position here.
Oh, he's a minute down. I was saying he was coming up on the back of Dean Singerbeck, but Dean's gone a bit hard into the roller coaster, put it on the grass.
Yep. He's derailed himself on that one there, Cowie.
That's it. Oh, well, the mower blades will be sharpened at least.
So Barton now up into P5. That drops Singovic down to P10, although he's up 2 spots from where he started the race. Tyson McAvoy at the moment,
Steven
P8.
just called out a tow, I think. Did he?
He's in the pits. He was in the pits for his fuel. So unless he towed in pits to get his fuel, I don't know.
He's overshot his pit bay, and he doesn't have enough fuel to reverse. Maybe.
Well then, I don't think that this should not cause a safety car. He has now jumped to the pits because he's in the pits, and it would literally just be, it'd be like his pit crew pushing him back into the pit bay.
So I'll probably add 20 or 30 seconds
Yeah.
for the toe for the push.
So Tyson McAvoy currently P8 of this race at the moment. He's up 6 spots right now. He's the biggest mover so far. Darren Fahey has dropped some spots into P7 after getting that speeding through pits. Nathan Verney is in P6 right now for Locked On Racing, so he's going pretty good at the moment. Although he just
and
runs
he's
off into
gone
the
in
grass.
deep.
And you can see that it's a perfect example of how this grass is just like ice, Cowie. I mean, you get dragged out there and you go a million miles away from the tarmac.
Now I'm just reading the driver chat here, and it just made me realise something. I didn't think I remember because we had issues with the iRacing maintenance for this night racing. They had to quickly come up with another server for the guys to be able to race. But this originally was intended to be a sprint round finale, and so we changed it to sort of a 60-minute enduro finale finish to the season. But what's happened in the process is they actually didn't put in the fixed setup for the race. So I'm reading through the results here, and a few guys are saying that they're on MDF, the medium downforce. Robbie Griffiths is saying he was running on the Barcelona setup. So that is interesting. And the guy's just talking about it and saying, make sure you're on Virginia.SDO. So there is an iRacing setup for Virginia. So at least most of the guys will be on that. Maybe a few of them, made a bit different change at the one race where they had the option to do so. Oh, Tyson's had a moment and crashed. That car missing a rear and front wing, isn't it? Oh, he's got the front wing, but no rear wing.
No rear wing, but that is now lacking a whole heap of rear downforce. You can see it just
she's
slipping
wiggling.
and sliding.
And he's gone for an excursion on the grass.
He's into the mid part of the paddock now. I think even if he gets a tow from out there, that shouldn't be a safety car.
He's continuing to go. Because I heard someone else on the radio call out something as well, so maybe involved with another driver there causing this. But yeah, it's rather interesting, and unfortunately my team boss not having a great race so far.
No, he is not. He's really struggling at the moment. But we'll have to see what happens when he comes to the pits. It does mean, though, that he will need to have 2 more stops in this race, Cowie. But it will be a short stop to the end. Whether he takes fuel or not now, though, will be the question. He will definitely be taking that fast repair, though.
Yeah, look, he's just got to get it back to the pit lane now, and do you put fuel in, go an alternate strategy, and count on a safety car? We'll have to see if he makes that call. So
this now puts Jason Chin P5 at the moment as well for Fishy. So he's actually let his teammate Robbie Griffiths go past him. Of course, Robbie's battling for the championship. Jason is not. Daniel Byrne at the moment is in P3. Jay Dixon has dropped as he's gone off track. I've just caught him coming back on. So that's now dropped him into P2 from Adrian Loretti.
And Daniel Byrne coming through now with a great little slingshot here. And yeah, looks he's going to get that done. And so Jay Dixon with the leader's curse here at VIR. See what happens there when you have a moment. Those rear tyres have been lit up and are really hot. And it takes, half a lap to a lap for them just to settle down. And you can see the thing wiggling everywhere.
I mean, this track, it's a killer of tyres. I mean, a lot of the tracks we've come to this season eat up tyres for breakfast. VIR eats up tyres for breakfast, lunch and dinner. Like, it is a tyre killer of a track just based on the change of direction and on the undulation through all the corners. But it is an incredibly tough circuit because of that, but it's also an incredibly tough circuit because of if you do have a moment, it can just ruin your next couple of laps. I mean, in terms of your tyres being too warm or you've been in the grass and your head's gone a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see how well he can keep his head together and how well the car's actually doing over the course of the next 10 minutes of this stint to see how he can go before the pit stop.
It's also one of those tracks that's all about flow and groove, so it's one of those tracks you can really get into the groove and just drive, but as you said, it's easy just to make that slight little mistake or lock a wheel and run a little bit deep into the roller coaster here, and then you've got a nice grassy excursion. We can already see quite a few little try mats out through the grass there. But yeah, look, the leaderboard has been shuffled up, and this would be exactly what Daniel Byrne was looking for. He's got his teammate out in front, and he's bringing himself into P2. He's avoided the carnage, and now has clear track and only a teammate in front of him, bar that
The
lap,
lap traffic.
the lap car up there.
Which I believe
But
is
yeah.
Steve Stinkovich ahead of him right now, I believe. Let me check.
Yeah.
No, it's
you're
not.
right,
That's
right there.
no, Steven's further back. Who is it that's ahead of him? It's not Scott.
No, it was Stephen, because that was Adrian Loretti behind him with the 85, wasn't it?
Was it Steven?
Or was it Darren Vay? No, that was Darren Vay. It was the car
Yeah.
with the 5. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and is that Stephen that's run wide there? So while he's not going to be in the equation for Darren, he has managed to keep that car out of the wall. And he saw that was Nathan Byrne coming through there, so he saw him nicely and waited.
So Bradley Hudson also had a bit of an off track just before as well. Scott Barton is quite a fair bit back from the lead. He's actually a lap down now after having 2 more pit stops. He's actually had 3 pit stops in this race so
He
far.
had a moment. He must have had a moment.
Yeah.
Because why would you come in the middle here unless you needed a fast repair? So I'd say he's hit something, broken a car, brought that back in. It's unfortunate we can't sort of show these replays for you. It's something that iRacing Replay doesn't let you do. But Scott, well, you know, he's still reviewing that jump start right at the start of this motor race that gave him a drive through, and you know, now a lap down, and really counting on a safety car to get him back into the hunt.
Well, it's kind of like that domino effect that we talk about a lot in racing, and you know, it comes from the top and it comes from the start. You make a mistake at the start, it can end your whole race or just hinder your whole race from that point on. And he's now just gone further and further back from that one simple mistake at the start of jumping it, you know. So
Yeah, but what you do is you make a mistake at the start of an SRW race because you count on a Sinkovic to get a safety car out there for you a bit later, and then you're back in the hunt.
that is the
Not really, but I know every time I need a safety car, it doesn't seem to come out, and every time I don't need to see one, I see about 5.
It's the Spinovich is always a bit of a golden ticket if you want to have a safety car, especially in F3s. I mean, we've seen many wild moments over the course of the season between both of them and even them separately. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw a moment, because I saw it in the Vets finale. One of the drivers,
Jay Dixon there, buddy. He's right on the coattails of Adrian Loretti coming up into the heavy braking zones that come down through the roller coaster. So Jay, you know, made that mistake, but he's now back on the hunt, and you know, really showing his pace.
he is. He's pushing
No,
so
this is
hard
like
at the
Daniel
moment.
Byrne up
Daniel
in front.
Byrne.
This is Daniel Byrne, yep. So, and I'm sure we saw Daniel, you know, shoot by him a couple of laps ago when Jay made a mistake, and Daniel not even interested in fighting this, getting well out of the way, let Jay to have the inside. Yep, he does not need to fight and break a car tonight and DNF. All he needs to do is finish.
Well, if he can get to 70,
play there from the kitten.
if he can get to 75% of this race distance, then he will be classified, even if he DNFs after that. So I believe if he gets to 45 minutes of this motor race, he will be classified in it. So that's all he's got to get to.
Go for that.
Yep.
We are 35 minutes into this motor race. It is Adrian Loretti for Kittens Racing, leading Jay Dixon in P2, and for Downforce Racing and Daniel Byrne, another kitten in P3. Robbie Griffiths, our earlier race leader, is about 15 seconds back from Daniel Byrne. Was 3 or 4 seconds in front when he made an uncharacteristic mistake. And as you said, buddy, this place, it can bring him out, and it's just so diabolical in places that a tiny little mistake just costs you lots and lots of time.
And it's such a technical, and it doesn't seem such a technical and tough circuit unless you look at like the infield section, which is super technical. But it's a place that lends itself well, or not so well, depending on how you look at it, to simple mistakes. Simple mistakes can lead to a much bigger outcome than what you actually think. Just by keeping it off the grass here, you can gain a heap of spots in a race, especially if it's a long race, just by keeping it clean, because so many people can make a mistake here. And as we've seen, you hit the grass, you go out about a kilometre into the grass, and then you're trying to get back in a kilometre onto the tarmac. So it's, just keeping it on the tarmac is one of the most crucial things around here, but it is something that is so beneficial for you as a driver at this place.
Interestingly, Daniel Byrne is just staying on the coattail of Jay Dixon, so...
Although he has actually gotten past
and he's
him,
just
yeah.
got past him, so something's happened to Jay, yeah, because I was watching that distance there, and he was closing the gap, and then he's got past Jay, so I don't know if Jay's made a mistake, or I think he has to have been to be that far down.
Unless
This
he's
was
just...
reversed.
I think he might have gotten it done maybe at turn 1, and then has just maybe just left, maybe had a better run than Jay did through the next couple of corners.
Oh,
Was able to
a couple
build
of
the gap.
seconds. That gap was, a second in, Jay's favour, and now it's 1.5 seconds in Daniel's favour. So, something happened there for sure. But I'm sure Daniel Byrne, for Kittens Racing driver 808, is not going to be complaining at all. He did say he was going to stream this race for the finale, so I wonder if that actually happened. I know he's been doing quite a bit of recording and that, but he hadn't actually done a live stream. So I might have to try and follow that up and see if that happened.
Well, it'd be good to see if he did. Unfortunately, we can't ask him about it, but although it'll be a question that we do ask him in the next season of F3. So say, oi, did you actually broadcast, or did you actually live stream your final round? But Tyson McAvoy has had an incident as well, apparently. Let me just see what's happened. Has he lost anything? No, I think he might have just had a bit of a spin.
The car looks still pretty straight. He fixed it from before because it was looking broken. Currently running P13, but he's down a whole heap of laps as well. Is that right?
Yeah, he's been in the pits. I think he might have already used his fast repair. And then,
right.
And then when he actually lost his rear wing, he's then had to sit in the pits and fix the rear wing.
So that car, it looks fairly clean though, and healthy's there, so
yeah.
Don't know what's happened to Tyson.
Yeah, he's had an 8-minute stop at his last pit stop, so
right.
I think he's either towed, which I don't think he did, or he hasn't actually used his fast repair already and actually had to take the repairs.
Unfortunately, it's taken him well out of contention, and the Performance Sim Racing Machine, he did take out the TCR Championship for this season, so I think the F3s was always just a little bit of a muck around for him, and but put his focus on the TCR and came out with the championship. So great work for Tyson.
I know he was very passionate about that TCR Championship, and he was a bit upset that we actually couldn't run the final round because of the iRacing maintenance. But he still came away with a championship win. Oh, but he's had a massive moment. Oh, that is huge!
That is a technical error. Something's happened there. That almost looked like the cat, had jumped on the accelerator pedal or something.
That
trying
was
to get that car
massive.
going. That car is broken. This may well be the moment that Scott Barton, Bradley Hudson have been waiting for.
And you.
Because that car is not going to make it back to the pits at all.
That was massive.
Oh, hang on. So, the reason Tyson fell back is he received a black flag on that, failing to hold brakes, so he must have been involved in an accident there earlier.
He's trying to drive it back. He doesn't want to tow. But I think he might be committing to it.
He's going to throw the spanner in the works.
So a lot of drivers jumping into the pits now. Darren Fahey, Jason Chin, Steve Singovich, all these
Well,
guys
we're
into
inside
the
the
pits.
20 minutes to go, so he's inside that window now.
Griffiths has also stopped. He came in on lap 23, so he's done his pit stop. So he'll be hoping to do 12 laps over the next stint.
Is the
Tyson
safety car going to
McAvoy.
get called out?
Tyson has towed.
And there's no safety car?
There's no safety car.
Okay, so maybe race control deemed he was in a safe area there where no other car would make contact with him. Or, you know, he's far enough up the track line that you could say the virtual tilt tray could get that car without putting anyone in any danger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I
I'm
think
sure Scott Barton might have something to say about that when he watches back the replay. Because he needed that safety car to get things back on track. But it is what it is. We are still running. And it is Adrian Loretti for Kittens Racing that has a 1.3 second lead over his teammate Daniel Byrne. So Daniel's got past Jay again. Oh no, that's right. We did mention that spot.
Yep.
But and I wouldn't be surprised if Adrian lets Daniel through here and just plays the rear gunner now that it's 1-2 for the Kittens. We'll have to see if that's the way these boys play it. We do know that, well, they work as a team. There's normally sort of 5 or 6 of them out there every race. And we've seen it before. We've commentated it before, Hamish, of the nice little gamesmanships that you can play when you've got a few of your buddies around you and they've got equal pace, you know.
Well, I think the only thing is, though, Robbie Griffiths, who is now Daniel Byrne's closest competition to the championship, is 25 seconds back from them.
That's right.
So Daniel doesn't necessarily need to be let past by Adrian. He doesn't even need to beat Jay to win the championship. I think he's just going to cruise to the end.
But Jay's got pace to, you know, continue to be a nuisance to Daniel. So it'll be whether or not, you know, Daniel just says, Adrian, no, you take it out, mate, and I'll, if Jay gets too close, I'll just let him through. Or, you know, Adrian decides to play the rear gunner role. But we'll keep an eye on the times. At the moment, the gap is about 3 seconds, and Adrian's sort of extending it at the moment. Looking further down the field, I think we've got Dean Singovic and Danny Madisic close together on track. So I don't know if Danny had a moment there or Dean had a moment because he was closing in on Danny. I saw a yellow time bar up there on the SDK timing screen.
Well, they are nice and close, so they could be in for a nice, tasty battle here for P9. I
Something's
think
happened there with Danny's livery by the looks of that too, because that hasn't loaded properly. Because he should have a kitten livery.
Unless he's left kittens. Oh, I think his kitten's livery was white, wasn't it? With the pink, I believe it was. Let's have a look. Not quite sure. That'll be one. I'll have to investigate that before next season, just to double check that is actually his livery or not.
Unfortunately, these two boys will have the leaders catching them. You should be able to see them in the back of shot. They'll have to just pause their little battle for a lap or two as the leaders come through.
Well, there's Adrian right there, and then that's where Dean is. So he is closing in very quickly right now.
And look, the last thing you want to do as a backbreaker is to get involved with the front runners. But you also don't want it to cost you too much time when you're trying to battle the car in front of you. Because although, you know, Dean and Danny and Tyson are all a lap down, they're all close together on track. And, you know, as I've said before, for myself, mate, it's not about where I finish. It's about how I raced. You know, if I can get in and rub elbows with a few of the boys, have a really good battle, you know, even if I fall sour of it, you know, then I'm going to get my enjoyment out of it. And I know it's the same for a lot of these guys out here that, you know, race this league, you know, week after week, keep coming back. And we thank them for it.
Yeah, it's great to see. Great to see, as we see, I believe that was Dean just letting Adrian pass there.
That was an interesting place to do
it, though.
it
It was. So yeah, so it's good to see, and it's good to have all these guys show up week in and week out and give us some good racing. Danny Matisic has actually dropped a fair bit, sorry, off of Dean Singovich. I think he might have actually had a little moment while we were chatting about it there.
Yeah, so
Very
yeah, it was the other
interesting.
way around, and now he's got to fight his way back. He's got the leaders in front of him, and he's dropped a fair way back there. What's that gap to Dean now? It's about
23 seconds,
23
24.
seconds. So he's had a massive moment.
Yeah. So Dean is
And
on the back
probably
straight.
one of those grass excursions that you've talked about tonight, Hamish.
Yeah, I believe it was. So a shame for him, but there's still a bit of time to come back though. Scott Barton is now back in the pits. This should be his final stop of the race, but it's just not a way that he'll want to be ending his championship run this time by. But we'll go back up to the leader as they lap him once again, and they are only under 15 minutes away from the checkered flag flying here tonight. Cowie, and we're actually past the point now where Daniel Byrne would actually be officially recognised as the champion, because even if he doesn't finish from now, he's done 75% of the way.
Get those points for 13th, I think I would, and that would make it unassailable. The boys can't catch him. Robbie Griffiths has made a good recovery in this race, though I'm sure he's probably ruining his little mistake, because it meant that he sort of circled around on his own about sort of 20 odd seconds behind that front battle pack. So, one mistake and the guys in front don't make that same mistake, then it just costs you.
Yeah, it's so easy to do as well, but when it does happen, you can really start to get into the back of your own head. But I think he knew it was going to be an uphill battle for the actual overall championship. If he currently finishes where he is, he will confirm the AM championship for himself, and he will also guarantee himself to be P2 in the championship overall as well. So he's looking strong, and he's probably just looking to get home from this point.
I think Robbie came into this series as an AM driver. I don't think he's finished it as an AM driver, that's for sure. He's shown his pace and, has been near the front sort of ever since the first couple of rounds. And it only took him a round or two to get his head around this car. And I think maybe really enjoying racing it and decided to put in a bit of practice too. And we've seen the benefits as the season's rolled on.
Yeah, he's really just gotten himself into winning ways over all the race series that he's been doing, and it's so good to see. I mean, he's got a mega amount of pace about him, and he is just improving week in and week out, no matter what car he's driving. So I'm looking forward to see what he can bring to the table for the F3s next season. I think he could be a real contender if he can show up every week, and if he can just show the pace that he's had and really bring the challenge to those kittens as well. We could be in for an incredible fight next season.
All right, well, we are coming down to about 11 and a bit minutes of this motor race remaining, and it is Adrian Loretti for Kittens Racing that has a 2-second lead over his teammate, driver 808, Daniel Byrne, also for Kittens Racing. Jay Dixon for Downforce Racing, well, he's been out in front, he's been third, fourth, he's been back and forward like a yo-yo, pushing hard and really trying to sort of, drive the wheels off this car, and sitting in P3 at the moment, and it's daylight back to Robbie Griffiths, about 26, 27 seconds back from this little battle. But Daniel Byrne, he's starting to close in on Adrian Loretti now, so maybe close enough now to get that toe. We have seen no one take tyres again, so no, tyres not on the menu once again here for the F3s. That will mean, though, these guys getting about 10 minutes of this race to go, buddy. I'd say that be quite a few of them that don't have much meat left on those rear tyres now.
No, I think they would definitely have to be doing the tyre saving, strategy is really coming into play now. They have to keep the tread on those tyres. They have to keep the wear down. There's 10 minutes left. These tyres only last about 40 minutes. The only driver I think who's probably in the good position is Jason Chin on tyres. He did have a 47-second pit stop, which I think might have been a penalty as well. Just looking at the amount of time he was in the pits for, but I'm sure he would have taken tyres as well. And it's whether maybe Scott Barton took tyres in between his 4 pit stops that he's had tonight. Whether he's done that as well is another question yet to be answered. So it's going to be a bit hairy for them to get home on those tyres, but they can be done, and they just need to keep them cool, calm, and collected, and focus on getting to the checkered flag.
Well, he's only got about 4 minutes remaining before there will be no safety car call for the last 5 minutes of this motor race. So, unfortunately, I think Scott and Dean and Danny and Brad and Stephen can all count their wave around, I suppose, bye-bye. Adrian Loretti here is just focusing straight ahead, leading this motor race. At the moment, maybe another 3 or 4 laps to go inside the final 10 minutes, so maybe 9 minutes, 8.5 minutes to go. So maybe 4 laps, 5 laps.
Yeah, we should get to 35 laps if we don't have a safety car. So,
that's going to be like that extra lap may well make a difference for some of these guys. Pitting on lap 24, these front runners, so I don't think they're going to have a trouble. Robbie Griffiths pitting on lap 23. Darren Fahey pitting on lap 23. So those guys, if it goes 35, they'll need to do 12 coming home, and that's right on the cusp of it.
Steve Singovich came in on lap 21, so he will need to pit again. There's no way he can get home on fuel. There's no way he can gain 2 extra laps, although he will be a couple of laps down on where these guys finish, but I think he'll need to gain about a lap worth of fuel depending on where he finishes.
You can see there, Adrian, that car is a little bit twitchy in the rear, so I don't know if those tyres are really, really liking it out there now. And we just see it like this car. You're relying on the rear of the car to stick and grip through those corners. It is so hard to save it once you lose the rear. You can sort of catch it when the front washes out, but when the rear goes, that tank slapper will throw you for 6 if you've got a direct drive wheel. So, this is that period sort of coming down to 5 minutes or 7 minutes of this motor race to go, where those tyres are squealing, but you don't want to overstress them. You don't want to lock a brake. You don't want to get another big heat cycle into them, because that's just going to make them even worse.
Yeah, they really just have to keep these tyres as good as they can be. I mean, there's only a handful of laps left. We're only about a minute and a half from 5 minutes to go in this motor race. There's not long to go now until the season's over. Not long to go until the race is over. They just have to take it lap by lap and just try and keep those tyres in good of a condition as they can, just to make it home. And that's what's going to be the big challenge now over the next couple of moments.
Keep the car straight. Okay, I'm braking. Brake in a straight line. Okay, turn the car with little input, as small amount of input as you can provide. Be gentle on that throttle and just ease it out. We can see that the lap times aren't really falling away. So, these guys still doing good runs at the moment. But Daniel Byrne is only 2/10 of his fastest lap of the race last night. So, Adrian already about a second back from the race. Jay Dixon on the radio, he's fallen 19 seconds back. Has something happened to Jay?
He's off in the grass.
At a broken car. No. Is he trying to get it going?
He's trying to get it going.
So I think there might have been contact there, but I don't think that car's going to turn, is it?
I don't think so. I believe his wing is definitely broken. You can see it bent on the screen. I believe his steering might be broken as well. And he's just towed.
given permission there by race control. I think it
Yep.
just ticked over the 5 minutes, so unfortunately no last minute safety car. So it looks like you have won our sheep station bet as far as the Promo Department safety car goes. But Daniel Byrne now right on the back of his teammate. Is this... Adrian's going slow, so is he struggling on tyres? Or is he just going to... Daniel's going to eat him up here. I think Adrian's going to let him go.
I think he's just going to give him the race when he knows that they're 30 seconds ahead of Robbie. And I think he just wants to guarantee Daniel the championship, even though it is guaranteed for him. But he might just be pulling him along and then let him cross the line in P1 just to confirm that he is the champion, maybe.
Well, getting a big run there and, you know, got on the gas quite early coming out of the corner. So he's still trusting the rear of that car, Daniel Byrne. So, yeah. He's right in the toe now and... Yeah, he's going to swing around the outside. You know, pulls in behind his teammate. Okay, so maybe things will stay as they are, and he's going to be happy just to sit there and follow his teammate around.
So according to my notes, Jay Dixon actually had contact with the wall at Oak Tree, and that was what caused the damage to his car. So he must have run wide and hit the wall, and then it shot him back across the track.
Here we go, Daniel Byrne. Yep, Adrian's let him through there. So that is a change for the lead of this motor race to all but, you know, well, not all but, secures the championship, but it also gives Daniel Byrne, you know, a chat, you know, with the commentators at the end of the race, buddy. I suppose he was going to be on the podium anyway. But no, look, Adrian is very much the team player. Continues to tell me that he is not the boss of Kittens. They don't have a boss, but you know, he tends to make those right team decisions, and you know, the strategies you know, play out week after week, and you know, we rarely see the boys make a big strategy mistake.
I mean, they must work together week in and week out to come up with a strategy that works for all of them. Surely that's the play.
Yeah, and talking with them before, I know they've said that they can't always all get together to practice, but generally what will happen is, I think it's Daniel, Adrian, and the boys are on early in the week, sort of testing the setup, so that at least the boys that maybe can't put in quite as much practice, you know, have a setup ready, raring to go. But again, this is generally a fixed setup series, so these guys would have no setup prep for tonight. They would have jumped into it and then realised, hang on, we can race whatever we want.
So these guys will come through the roller coaster, Cowie, and they should be crossing the line to start their final lap of this race. And it's been a wild one for sure, hasn't it?
Well, look, we probably needed that safety car to bunch it back up in the middle of the race there. So we have seen the sort of the lap times get petered out. Did we see Barney waving the white flag there? We were inside the final 2 minutes. But seeing a lap's only 1 minute 40 around here, maybe there's an extra lap coming for these guys, or is this the final lap of the race?
I believe he was flying the white flag. I'm waiting to get the confirmation on my end, at least in my SDK, telling me that it is the final lap, but it might not even tell me until they actually cross the line to get the checkered. But they are only so far away now from the end of this race. Daniel Byrne is only so far away now from being crowned the champion, which was kind of a far-gone conclusion at the start of this race. It was just, you know, we were just waiting to get to the end to really confirm it. But what also this means now is if Robbie Griffiths can finish on the podium in P3, it will guarantee him P2 in the championship and P1 in the amateur class of the F3s. So he's had a great race and a great season, and to really just back it up by getting P2 in the championship is an incredibly strong finish for him.
Well, Scott Barton's still going to finish P6.
He's P7 at the moment.
P7, sorry. Robbie Griffiths P3. So that's that 4-spot difference we were talking about. And, you know, but both of that will still be a high enough points finish that these points will, you know, their drop rounds will come on off. I think it was, 104 for Scott and 102 for Robbie, if I remember correctly.
So that is the checkered flag, Cowie, and Daniel Byrne takes the win and the championship just ahead of his teammate Adrian Loretti. And Robbie Griffiths has got a fair bit to go before he actually gets to that checkered flag.
Yeah, so looking at the season standings, Daniel Byrne. Sorry, so it had Scott Bartijn in first, but he had 104 points to drop off. Daniel Byrne in second with 0 points to drop off. So he's had 100 points on the top of these guys. 102 points for Robbie Griffiths to jump off. So Scott had a 2-point advantage over Robbie. Now we're talking 4 spots difference. You know, that's 22 points. So Robbie Griffiths was 21 points behind Scott Bartijn. So has Robbie Griffiths taken out P2 by a point?
I believe he has. If
That's
Jason,
close.
and you know what it comes down to as well, if Robbie's teammate finishes in P6 or not. So Jason Chin needs to come home in P6 to guarantee Robbie Griffiths P2 in the championship, and it's looking very likely that he is going to, barring a mistake around the final corner.
Well, I'm thinking he's running a bit low on fuel there because that car's going rather slow.
He's going very
gonna
slow.
make it across the line, so it will count. So yeah, so 24 points with the difference earned by Robbie Griffiths. He was 21 points behind Daniel Byrne, so that's 3 points left. And Scott Bartijn had a 2-point. Sorry, he had a and Scott lost another 2 points off. Yeah, so that's it. It's going to be like a point in it. Wow.
Also, Jay Dixon actually got back out on track as he has another moment into the grass.
I think that might have been a deliberate moment there through the grass.
He's
cut that. And Stephen just letting the boys know the season's coming and letting them know about next week's parallel series race at Gilles Villeneuve, Montreal. And Jay's overshot his pit bay and maybe got a black flag there at the end. It's been in the pit lane.
Which
see what happens.
That parallel race did happen, but unfortunately we were not able to broadcast it due to lack of numbers on the entry list, unfortunately. But hopefully we can get the numbers next Wednesday night on the 28th of June for our parallel series. Believe we should be racing at Red Bull Ring, I believe is the next F1 race. So we should be there for F3s next time out on the 28th.
Now, I believe, did Steven Sinkovic was going to look after the driver interviews for us for tonight for this broadcast?
I'm not sure if it has been done or if it has not been done. We're not in the position to do it right now.
Well, hopefully we've got that there to throw in for the broadcast here. We can see the boys with a few shenanigans in the pits, and you can't crash into each other in the pits, though it did look like Bradley Hudson was missing a front wing there. But yeah, look, there is the results for tonight's race. It is Daniel Byrne for Kittens Racing taking out the victory here at VIR, Virginia International Raceway, and the championship. With a great result. Adrian Loretti could have probably had the win tonight, but gave it definitely an unselfish action there, giving it to his teammate. And Robbie Griffiths, well, Robbie, with a great start to this race, was leading, and then that one little mistake throwing him 20 seconds behind, 30 seconds behind, but he has done enough to bring it home in P3, and we think enough to give him P2 in the championship as well. Darren Fahey brings it home in P4, another driver that was leading this motor race, and I think had was it a drive-through penalty for speeding in pit lane? He got a 40-second stop and hold that threw him back. Nathan Byrne, we didn't see much of Nathan tonight, so he's had one of his inconspicuous races tonight to bring it home P5. And Jason Chin, we saw there at the end, all importantly, finishing in 6th position, which pushed Scott Bartijn to P7. And perhaps that is that points difference that makes all the difference to the championship between Robbie Griffiths and Scott Bartijn for the minor placings of the title. So Jay Dixon bringing it home in P8. He was right in the mix, and I think just having a fun night tonight. Probably pushed a little bit hard in a couple of places. Championship not on his mind. He was going for the win. Dean Sinkovic bringing it home in P9, and Danny Matisic running out the top 10. Well, buddy, it did space out a little bit there in the middle of that race, but we got to see some great action. Bit of carnage. We missed a bit of carnage, buddy, but it was still a great night of racing here from the F3s. They put it on time and time again, mate, and just another great night of racing.
Yeah, it was fantastic to see. Great way to end the season for the F3s. Look forward to seeing them come back for season 3 as well. I think it's going to be an absolutely cracker of a season. And I believe if our first round is not on the 28th at the next parallel race, it should be the week after, so the Wednesday after that, which I believe, what would that be? 29. That would be, I think, the 5th. Let me double check. I think it's either the 5th or the 6th of July. I'll double check it just to be sure.
Make sure you check the Discord channel, guys. That's where all of the notifications are for the upcoming season. I know that the V8 Amateur Series is looking gunbuster and might be getting cut off at 40 odd cars. I know that we're looking at 25 to 30 in the F3s already, so make sure you jump on and grab your spot. Well, Hamish, hopefully Stephen's able to add the driver interviews in here, but once again, buddy, it's been a pleasure to call the racing with you, and it's been a great F3 season.
Yeah, it has, mate. I've really enjoyed myself. Really enjoyed the season, and I can't wait for next season to see who's going to really bring the fight to Daniel Byrne in that driver 808 Kittens machine.
That's it. Well, we also give a big thanks to you guys out there for tuning in and watching us week after week. This will bring us to the end of our coverage for the SRW Formula 3 Season 2 series here on SRWTV. Don't forget to hit that like and follow button on your social media pages. If you aren't already a subscriber, please hit that button so you don't miss out on any of the great action here at SRWTV. Well, on behalf of the broadcast team and management, thanks very much for watching tonight. This is Cowie Average Sim Racer. He's Hamish Munro. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on SRW TV.
To turn one, this is amazing.